What's going on? Welcome to episode number 6 of the Real Talk Real Estate Show. Thinking about selling? Because if you are, I'm sure you've heard a number of options from all brokerages. They are all largely promising to do the exact same thing. So it can be confusing. Who do you hire? How much should you spend? On today's show, we're going to talk about all things listings, listing fees, so you can make the best possible decision before your next move. Washington, D.C. real estate. Fiercely competitive and always changing. Where people from all corners of the world come to make their mark. So on this show, we get real. Real about what actually matters. Where I show you what's behind the curtain. And you get a new perspective. Because having the knowledge and insight means the difference between winning and losing. Welcome to Real Talk Real Estate. So as a seller, how do you know you're making the right choice? I'm going to jump right into listing fees. That's a big ticket item for a lot of people, so I understand that. I will say this, in my industry, in real estate, you always end up getting what you pay for. There are companies like Redfin, they'll charge 1% to sell your place. There are other places that say they'll do it for even less than that. But as a seller, what you should be most focused on is not what you're paying in listing fees. Understandably, that's a line item, but guess what? No matter who you hire, you're paying something. What you should rather focus on is the overall outcome at the end of the transaction. What did you end up with? How much did you net? And to get from here to there, from start to finish, there are a number of pitfalls and a number of ways that you can win and lose. So as a seller, I encourage you, don't get hung up on listing fees. They're expensive, I get that, but rather focus on your net outcome way over here, because that's what you should really care about. It's not what you're paying to get there, it's what you get when you get there. So it's the first thing I'll say, and in this business, you certainly do get what you pay for. And I'll explain that a little bit more. In the course of the contract, there's an agreed upon price. It happens at the very beginning, right? Buyer says, I'll pay this, seller says, I'll take that, boom. We've got a ratified contract. Great, congratulations. Unfortunately, and you may not know this as a first-time seller, or maybe you do because you've been through this a few times, there are a number of pitfalls throughout the post-agreement period to settlement that you can win or lose as a seller. For example, what happens if you get a bad appraisal? You contract on a price, but the appraiser comes out and says it's not worth whatever the contracted price is. As a listing agent, you've got to navigate that for your client. Otherwise, you may just cost them thousands of dollars at that juncture. So that's number one. What about number two? You get a terrible home inspector out and he says the foundation needs repaired when it really doesn't, or they say your whole chimney is crumbling when you know it's not because you've had that inspected. Whatever the home inspector says, the buyer's going to believe. The guy could be a total ass. I mean, he could be terrible at what he does, but at the end of the day, as a listing agent, I've got to protect you, my client, on how we're going to navigate the home inspection, because if I cost you an additional 5 or 10 grand at the home inspection that you weren't accounting for, you may have saved some money on listing fees, but that's an overall net negative. So you have appraisals, you have home inspectors, and number 3, you have financing. A buyer could very easily falsify what they can and can't do. When you enter into an agreement with them, you've now agreed to take your property off the market and go that 45 days, 30 days, 60 days, whatever you've agreed upon to get to the finish line. And if you haven't vetted that buyer, the lender, have enough experience and energy you've put into that process, you could be working with a buyer who's a loser, can't even get you to the finish line, in which case you still have nothing and you've just lost the market. You've been off the market 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks to find that out. The market's past you. You're going to suffer as a seller. So that's another pitfall. And there's more than that. And this segues into my next point. The bar to entry in real estate is super low. If you have $500, a high school education, and pass a test or two, congratulations, you're in real estate. You're a real estate professional. Well, I hate to talk negatively about anyone in my own industry, but that doesn't mean anything. Anyone could tell you that. It just means that you now have a license to go do business. And if you're not, as a seller's agent, as being your listing agent, my goal and job is to protect you in every situation. So again, the outcome is exactly what you want. And if we get a bad agent, which happens unfortunately all too often, and I need to be able to work with that agent to get their buyer, who may not even know their agent has no idea what they're doing. If I can't get that buyer to your property in a good situation where everyone's feeling confident in what's been agreed to, again, things can fall apart in a hurry. So the bar to entry is so low that having someone who's on your side that knows how to handle all these situations is invaluable. Again, net outcome. We don't want to lose sight of that. Last thing I'll say is, we'll talk about Redfin for a second. Maybe your company charges you 1% to sell the property, but that individual is getting paid a salary. They don't have any skin in the game. Sounds appealing, but think about that. You as a seller want someone like me who is mutually invested in your overall success to be responsible for the overall outcome of your transaction. I mean, it's logical, right? At that point, it makes complete sense that you need someone on your side in every sense of that word, because I don't earn anything until we get to the closing table with my clients. So I am very invested in what's going to happen. So those are just a number of reasons. You want someone that's invested, you want someone that can navigate pitfalls, you want someone that can protect you from other agents in the industry, and lastly, you just want someone that's paying attention to the overall outcome, not just what they can agree to in a listing contract. So as a seller, if you focus on all of those categories, vetting your candidate, whoever's going to sell your property, keeping all those factors in mind, you will be successful. And if you miss one of them, you're going to end up in a situation where maybe you're not as happy with the overall outcome. So we'll leave it there today. I hope you get involved. If you have any questions about that, let us know, and we'll love to hear from you. Until next time.